Welcome to the Deep Dive, the show where we try to cut through all that noise and really get to what matters. There's just so much information out there, especially when you're trying to understand government. It's overwhelming, right? So how do you, as a realtor, sort through it all? How do you figure out what actually impacts you, your work, your clients? Well, today we're doing exactly that, a deep dive into something critical but honestly often overlooked: local government. We're going to unpack why it's so incredibly important for realtors and really anyone involved in property. Our goal, to show why local advocacy isn't just, a nice thing to do, but essential. And we'll look at how a specific program, the Local Political Coordinator Program, the LPC program, helps realtors like you make a real difference. We've gathered info from various sources on local government structure, the LPC program itself, and found some surprising things, some clear insights we want to share.
Absolutely. And it's fascinating when you really look closely, isn't it? How much power sits at the county and municipal level. These decisions, they're happening all the time, often quietly, but they are fundamentally shaping the real estate landscape you work in every single day. We're talking stability, property values, future development.
Yeah.
It all ties back.
Okay, let's dig into that. There's a great quote from the Calvin Coolidge Presidential Foundation that really sets the stage. It says, "Local self-government is one of our most precious possessions. It is the greatest contributing factor to the stability, strength, liberty, and progress of the nation. It ought not to be infringed by assault or undermined by purchase." Pretty powerful words, and they feel very relevant right now.
They really do. And for realtors listening, that's not just some historical quote. It's about the bedrock of your business, that stability and value you deal with every day. It's directly tied to how well that local self-government is functioning. When it's strong and transparent, markets are more predictable, communities thrive. But if it gets undermined, well, that creates ripples you definitely feel. Instability, risk.
That really clarifies the connection. So thinking about local government functions, people know the basics: police, fire. But based on the research, what's maybe the one mandatory function, perhaps a surprising one, that municipalities absolutely have to handle?
Well, it might surprise some. The single thing universally required at the municipal level, based on what we looked at, is building code enforcement.
Building code enforcement, just that.
Just that. As the sole universal mandate across all municipalities. Obviously, they do much more, but that's the requirement. And think about it. It ensures the safety and compliance of the very structures you're selling. It's foundational. Plus, it's a responsibility that's shared with the county and state, which, adds layers of complexity.
Okay, interesting. So that's the floor for municipalities. What about counties? What are they required to provide?
Counties have a much heavier lift, mandatory-wise.
Yeah.
They're on the hook for law enforcement, running the jail, court facilities, providing social services, supporting public schools in significant ways, also election administration, tax assessment, and yes, there it is again, building code enforcement, shared with the municipalities. It's quite a list.
Wow. Yeah, that's definitely more comprehensive than I think most people realize day to day. So when you look at that county list, law enforcement, schools, taxes, courts, how do those directly hit the real estate market and property owners? It seems like everything.
It pretty much is everything that makes a community desirable or not. Safety, right? Law enforcement, jails that impacts perceived safety, which is huge for property values. Schools, often the #1 factor for families.
Yeah.
That drives demand in certain areas like nothing else. Elections ensure representation. Good governance hopefully follows. Taxes directly impact affordability, the cost of ownership. And courts underpin, well, everything contractually. So yeah, these aren't just bureaucratic functions. They shape the environment you sell in daily.
Makes perfect sense. Okay, so these bodies are making decisions, setting rules. How does something actually become a local ordinance? Because if you want to influence policy, you need to know the process, right? Where do you jump in?
Exactly. And the process is actually designed for public input, which is key. Typically, an ordinance gets proposed, maybe by a city council member or a county commissioner. Then it goes public. It's discussed in open meetings. And this is crucial. These meetings nearly always have space for community input, for debate. So if you want to if you want to influence policy as a realtor, showing up and engaging in that process, that's where the power is. That's how you can literally shape local law.
Okay, so we've established the why. Why local government matters so much, even the parts we don't always see. But the big question for realtors listening is probably, okay, how do I actually get involved? How do I participate effectively? And that, I think, brings us to the Local Political Coordinator Program, the LPC program. Let's start basic. What exactly is an LPC?
Right. So LPCs are realtor members, just like you potentially, who volunteer to be a key part of their local association's advocacy efforts. They're the boots on the ground, essentially. Building those connections with local officials, making sure the realtor perspective is heard directly.
And what are the main goals? If someone signs up, what opportunities are there? It sounds like it's more than just showing up occasionally.
Oh, definitely. It's strategic. The goals are pretty clear. First, build professional relationships with officials on behalf of the association. Create that ongoing connection. Second, become a go-to resource for local government. Offer your expertise on real estate issues when they're debating policy. Third, really become pillars in the community. Show that realtors are engaged, informed citizens. And fourth, a really important one, identify potential future realtor champions, maybe even people who could run for local office someday. Strengthen the voice from the inside.
That sounds incredibly strategic, actually. Now, I've heard there's a difference in how LPCs operate compared to, say, federal or state political coordinators, FPCs and SPCs. Something about man-to-man versus zone coverage. Can you explain that?
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. It captures the core difference. FPCs and SPCs, dealing with state or federal legislators, it's usually man-to-man.
Yeah.
One realtor coordinator focuses on building a relationship with one specific legislator. Very targeted. But for LPCs, dealing with local government, it's zone coverage. An LPC is typically assigned to an entire town or city, a municipality, or sometimes a specific committee within that municipality.
Okay, zone coverage. Why the difference? Why not just assign one realtor to each council member? Seems like that would be simpler.
Right? Seems simpler maybe, but it wouldn't be as effective. And this gets to a really important point about where power actually lies locally. The sources we looked at emphasize that at the city or town level, the real power is with the governing board, the council, the commissioners, acting as a group, as a unit. An individual council member doesn't have unilateral power. Even the city manager, if there is one, acts on the direction of the whole council, not just one member. And counties, they're even more complex sometimes. Their boards often act like agents of the state, in a way. They don't report to individual commissioners like you might think. So the only real power any individual board member has is their vote, just their vote on the issues. Plus, these boards set up committees, right? Planning committees, zoning committees. A lot of the detailed review happens there before it even gets to the full board for a vote. So trying to influence just one person, it often doesn't work. You might talk to council member X, but if the rest of the council or a key committee isn't on board, you get nowhere. Understanding this whole structure, the collective power, the importance of the vote, the role of committees, that's crucial for being effective. You have to cover the zone, influence the group, often at multiple points.
That makes a lot more sense. It's about understanding the whole field, not just one player. Okay, so if you are an LPC, what's the game plan? What are the best practice activities?
There's a pretty clear playbook. First, always answer calls for action from your association. That unified voice is powerful. Remember, you're representing the Realtor Party. That's our nonpartisan advocacy identity. Focus only on real estate issues. Stay in your lane of expertise. Show up. Be physically present at meetings, community events whenever you can. FaceTime builds trust. And remember, it's a long game. Building real relationships takes time and consistency. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Also, try to build a local team if possible. Share the load covering your municipality. Makes it more manageable and effective. And finally, super important, report back. Share what you learned, data insights with your association's government affairs committee, the staff, the GAD. That feedback loop is vital.
That's a solid framework. Beyond those core activities, any tips and tricks? The little things that really help an LPC build those connections effectively.
Definitely. Little things can make a big difference. Always introduce yourself clearly. Hi, I'm Jane Doe, a realtor with the XYZ Association. Make sure they know who you represent. Offer your business card. Sounds basic, but it helps them remember you and reach out later. Remember your purple LE. Stay focused on the issues, not party politics. You're there for real estate. Position yourself and your association as a resource. Offer your expertise. Go to the meetings. Seriously, just being there consistently makes a huge difference, builds familiarity, and build relationships with everyone on the committee or council, not just the chair or one friendly face. Remember that collective power thing. Ask this question. What can I do for you? It shows you're there to help, not just ask for things. Builds goodwill. And yeah, share your notes back consistently. Keep the association informed.
Okay, so pulling this all together, the activities, the tips, why do these relationships ultimately matter so much in advocacy? What's the payoff for all that effort?
The payoff is huge, really. Strong relationships are the foundation. They help stop misinformation in its tracks because officials learn they can trust you for accurate info. You get to educate them on real estate topics before bad policy ideas take root. Be proactive. It means when your association does have an important ask, like supporting or opposing a bill, it's received much more openly because there's already trust and respect there. And fundamentally, it lets you be proactive rather than always reactive. You can see issues coming, engage early, shape the conversation instead of just fighting fires all the time.
That's a really key shift, isn't it? From reactive defense to proactive engagement. Okay, let's pivot back to the individual realtor listening. What's the long-term value for them in getting involved in this kind of advocacy?
Oh, the value is multi-layered. There's the personal satisfaction of civic involvement, right? Contributing to your community. Professionally, it ensures the realtor perspective is actually considered when decisions are made that shape your market. You're at the table, not on the menu. It helps identify and support local realtor champions, allies in office who understand the industry. It can even enhance your business. Clients respect realtors who are knowledgeable and engaged in the community. It sets you apart. And big picture, it improves the public perception of realtors overall. Shows your professionals deeply invested in the community's well-being. So, connecting the dots. This isn't just abstract stuff. It's about the health of your business, your market stability, and the reputation of your profession. It's a direct investment.
That really hammers it home. So for any realtor listening now who's thinking, all right, I'm convinced this is important. How do I start? What are some concrete next steps?
Great question. It's actually pretty straightforward to get started. First, work with your local association to identify the key county boards, councils, commissions, committees, anything that touches real estate. Planning, zoning, economic development, etc. Do the same thing at the municipality level, your city, your town. Map out who handles what. Then the association can gauge member interest. Who wants to cover which zone? And remember, you don't need 100% coverage right away. Start where you have energy and interest. Maybe encourage LPCs to work by committee, 2 or 3 realtors sharing responsibility for, say, the planning committee. Makes it less daunting. Develop a simple reporting process. Could be a shared Google Sheet, email updates, whatever works. Get LPC input on what's easiest. Maybe create an LPC pledge, just to formalize the commitment and expectations. Then help arrange those first introductions, those first points of contact between the new LPCs and the local officials. Make sure to tell the entire membership about the program. Build awareness and interest. You can always add more LPCs as interest grows. And keep building those relationships. Invite officials to association events. Make it a two-way street. Show appreciation.
Okay, so let's quickly recap this deep dive then, the main takeaway. Local government, county, city, town, that's where so many critical decisions impacting real estate happen, sometimes quietly, but always significantly. And the local political coordinator program, the LPC program, it's a smart, structured way for realtors to make sure your voice is heard, that you have influence, and that you're helping shape your community and your business's future. So as we wrap up, here's something to think about. Consider how even one small local decision, a tiny zoning tweak, a permit process change, how that can ripple out, how it can affect your clients, your deals, your livelihood, the whole feel of your community. What local issue, maybe just one to start, will you begin to explore and maybe even influence? Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.